Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One with me, Raisha Sehgal, and this is Speed News. We get you the latest from all across the globe. Let's get you started. The death toll from Israeli airstrikes on Lebanon since the beginning of the Israeli-Hezbollah war in last October had reached 3,000, with injuries rising to nearly 13,500, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. This comes as the Israel Defense Forces claim to have killed 2 Hezbollah commanders, including Riyad Rida, a senior figure in the Hezbollah forces Radwan, which is the anti-tank missile system. RAF stated that the Hezbollah commander killed was responsible for weapons distribution and personnel recruitment during an operation targeting Hezbollah military infrastructure in Lebanon. Gazas Health Ministry claims Israeli forces bomb last partially functioning hospital in the territory's north as Israel formally notifies the UN on cutting ties with the main aid agency for Palestinians. Gazas Health Ministry said Israeli forces were continuing to violently bombard and destroy Kamala Adwan Hospital. The director said that in a statement that the situation was catastrophic with several staff injured. World Health Organization chief said 6 child patients were injured in the strike on the hospital, which he described as appalling. Israel has formally ended a decades-old cooperation agreement with the United Nations Palestinian Relief Agency that covered the protection movement and diplomatic immunity of the agency in Israel, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Israel notified the UN in a letter about their decision. This was required as per a new law adopted by Israel's parliament that will ban UNRWA's operations in Israel and prevent Israeli officials from cooperating with it when the law takes effect in late January. North Korea fired a barrage of short-range ballistic missiles into the sea on Tuesday as it continued its weapons demonstrations hours before the U.S. presidential elections. Japanese Defense Minister General Nakatani said at least 7 North Korean missiles flew as far as 400 kilometers with a maximum altitude of 100 kilometers. He said they landed in the waters between the Korean Peninsula and Japan. The observations were also echoed by South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff. The move follows North Korea's test last week of a huge new solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile. North Korea's Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of leader Kim Jong-un, said military drills by the United States, Japan and South Korea justify North Korea's nuclear reinforcement. She criticized the air drill they conducted after North Korea tested a huge new solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile dubbed as Hwasong-19 last week, as well as multiple military drills that the Allies have conducted this year. China's Foreign Ministry has confirmed that Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto will visit China this week on his first foreign tour as he seeks a more prominent position for Jakarta on the world stage. It said that the 73-year-old ex-general's state visit will take place from Friday to Sunday. Russian rocket launches Iranian satellites into orbit as Moscow and Tehran expand ties. A Russian rocket blasted off successfully on Tuesday to carry a pair of Iranian satellites into orbit. The launch reflects growing cooperation between Moscow and Tehran. The Soyuz rocket lifted off as scheduled from the launch pad located in far eastern Russia and put its payload into a designated orbit 9 minutes after the launch. It was carrying 2 Russian Ionosphere M Earth observation satellites and several dozen smaller satellites, including the 2 Iranian ones. Iran's 2 satellites, named Kausar and Hodod, were the first launched on behalf of the country's private sector. Gerardo Wedin took the oath as the new Foreign Minister of Argentina in a ceremony at the Casa Rosada in Buenos Aires. He was sworn in by Argentine President Javier Milei. Gerard Wedin replaces Diana Mondino, who was dismissed last week following her vote at the United Nations, condemning the U.S. embargo on Cuba. Members of the National Cabinet and Wedin's close associates attended the swearing-in ceremony before his appointment. He served as Argentina's ambassador to the United States. SpaceX Falcon 9 launched Dragon spacecraft on its 31st commercial resupply services. Its mission to the International Space Station from the launch complex at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Dragon spacecraft will deliver approximately 3 tons of science supplies and equipment to the space station and return with over 4,000 pounds of cargo in about a month. After an almost 13-hour flight, Dragon will autonomously dock with the space station on Tuesday. And this marks the 5th flight of the first stage booster supporting this mission, which previously launched Crew 8 Polaris Dawn and 2 Starlink missions.
Vehicles pushing down range. And we have liftoff. NASA's SpaceX 31st commercial resupply mission.
Tomorrow is election day. Tomorrow is election day. And the momentum is on our side.
Vice President Kamala Harris, she showed confidence in her campaign as she's feeling the penultimate event of a presidential run, telling an audience in Pittsburgh that the momentum is on her side. Harris focused her message on energizing supporters to campaign on her behalf, given the critical impact Pennsylvania could have, along with Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. Singer Katy Perry performed and voiced her long-standing support for Harris, who she said has known her before her Senate run in California.
The momentum is on, and we will win, because when you know what you stand.
Republican presidential contestant Donald Trump warned that if elected, he would punish Mexico and China with tariffs unless both governments moved to stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Appearing before a large crowd in an arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Trump offered what his campaign called his final closing message to the voters in the last hours before Election Day. He said he would move quickly to crack down on drug trafficking along the southern U.S. border with Mexico, and that he would use tariffs as well. Heavy rainfall and flash flooding hit Bolivia's southern Tarija, submerging streets and affecting at least 14 neighborhoods. Local officials reported extensive property damage as homes, shops and vehicles were flooded, with over 100 hectares of crops destroyed. A recently relocated and revamped local food market was majorly impacted, with merchants reporting substantial merchandise losses. Meanwhile, reports of looting in the aftermath of the flooding have also emerged from the affected areas. In response to the crisis, the City Hall has opened shelters for those displaced by the floods. Local families are now urging authorities to declare the area as a disaster zone. As Beijing embraces the autumn temperature decline, Guineco trees across the city have turned from green to yellow. When these vibrant golden colored leaves fall from trees, they create a distinctive sight that contrasts with ancient buildings in the background. Many streets and scenic spots have welcomed a large number of tourists taking photos. Tourist spots including Yangsam Mountain and the National Botanical Garden have also become popular among many people to enjoy the autumn. According to a report from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, Elon Musk's post about the US election on social media platform X have garnered 2 billion views this year. The report has found that at least 87 of Musk's posts contained claims about the election that fact-checkers rated as false or misleading. Experts have noted that X has become a key platform for spreading election misinformation, especially in battleground states. As per the report, Musk's vast following of nearly 203 million amplifies these posts, allowing misinformation to spread quickly across other platforms like Reddit and Telegram. Seven French families have accused TikTok of failing to protect its users, especially teens, from harmful content. This includes an incident that led 2 teenagers aged 15 to take their own lives. The lawsuit alleges TikTok's algorithm exposed the teenagers to videos promoting suicide, self-harm and eating disorders. Social media platforms such as TikTok and Meta's Facebook and Instagram have long faced scrutiny over the policing of content on their app. Mark Zuckerberg's Meta is currently fighting several lawsuits in the US, accusing them of enticing and addicting millions of children to their platforms, leading to mental health issues among the youth. The US Supreme Court is set to consider bids by tech giants Facebook and by Nvidia. Both Facebook and Nvidia are attempting to dismiss federal securities fraud lawsuits. The court's recent rulings have weakened federal regulators, potentially making it harder for private plaintiffs to hold companies accountable. Facebook is facing a lawsuit for misleading investors about a data breach, while Nvidia is accused of misrepresenting the impact of cryptocurrency mining on its business. Both companies argue that they complied with disclosure requirements. The outcome of these cases could majorly impact the ability of private individuals to pursue securities fraud claims. Elon Musk on social media platform X has implemented a controversial change to its block function. From now on, blocked users will be able to see posts of the accounts that have blocked them. However, these blocked accounts will be unable to follow, engage with posts, or send direct messages to that person who has blocked them. First announced in September, the new update has not gone down well with X users. People against the new feature say that they don't want blocked users to see their posts for safety reasons. Meanwhile, experts say the new feature will enable stalkers and trolls to see posts while reducing the victim's safety. Australia's central bank holds interest rates steady but reiterated that policy would need to stay restrictive until it was certain that core inflation was slowing as desired. There was subdued market reaction with the Australian dollar little changed. Rate swap suggests that there is a less chance of a rate cut this year, with the first easing most likely in April or May next year. The Reserve Bank of Australia kept rates at a 12-year high of 4.35%. It repeated that it was not ruling anything in or out on policy. Markets have heavily waged on a steady outcome as the market labor stayed surprisingly strong. The diesel market in India is losing momentum as the pace of demand growth eases. This comes as the economy expands at a slower pace and consumption patterns shift. Sales of the fuel used to power trucks and farm machinery were flat in October from a year earlier. In the first 10 months of 2024, volumes expanded by just 1.8%, the slowest pace since 2020. Diesel accounts for about 4 barrels in every 10 of oil used in India, and the softness comes just as signs of weak buying have been seen in China and Europe alike. Chinese stocks rise as the top legislative body reviewed a proposal to refinance the hidden debt of local governments. This comes after a gauge of services activity defeated economists' forecast. The stock index climbed 2%, the biggest gain in more than 2 weeks. The National People's Congress Standing Committee met on Monday to discuss the plan to raise a local government's debt ceiling to swap out their hidden debt. The decision is intended to reduce the financial burden of local authorities. Oil steadied after jumping almost 3% on Monday on heightened tensions in West Asia and OPEC's move to extend supply curbs. Investors are also turning their focus to the US presidential election. Brent traded above $75 a barrel after rising the most in more than 3 weeks. Traders are on edge after Iran's supreme leader warned over the weekend of a crushing response to the country's enemies. The international benchmark has lost about 13% since the end of June on disappointing Chinese demand.